If you've ever been to your doctor's office or OB's office feeling dismissed, gaslit, brushed off, I want you to know that you're not crazy. You're not crazy for wanting deeper answers and to wanting more. You need a provider who listens and who is in your corner and who genuinely cares and who knows women's health. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of She's in Sync. Today, we're going to be talking about another personal experience I had that I think a lot of you can relate to. I'm in a storytelling mood, apparently. Last week, I shared about my journey with retinol, stopping that, feeling like I was back to square one with my acne journey. And this is several weeks after I recorded the episode, and I still have some post pigmentation going on, but my active acne has like significantly decreased. I mean, I've maybe had like one or two spots. So I'll record an update to that whole journey and what I'm doing to help with that. But so far, there has not been any intervention besides just stopping the peels that I was doing, stopping the retinol, obviously. So it was a good reminder. This is if you listened to last week's episode, or if you haven't and want to go back and listen to it, that's just a mini update of an important learning experience that even if you have a flare, if you try something, or if there are bumps in the road with your healing journey, that is 100% normal. And take that as a learning experience versus, oh shit, I'm back to square one, which is a really good lesson that I talk to my clients about. And it was a good reminder to myself throughout that journey. So again, I'll record a whole new episode once I'm further down the road with the post-retinol journey. But I wanted to highlight that just as evidence of even a month later, I'm in a totally different spot with my skin and my mental health around that. All that being said, today we are focusing on how, when I learned about functional nutrition and I learned about the root causes to my post-birth control symptoms. So again, acne, irregular anovulatory periods, anxiety. I wanted my doctor to help support me in that journey, right? So I've been doing a lot of my own preliminary research, and then I had joined a functional nutrition program for my business to take my business to the next level and to quit my full-time job in eating disorders and to move fully into Nourish by Taylor. And in the meantime, I was really looking to help myself and continue to grow because I still hadn't figured out the root causes to my symptoms. And so when I looked to my doctor to help guide me, when I got that information, their response was really, really discouraging. And I see this and hear this so much from women of the conventional route doesn't work. They've tried over and over again to take the different pill, to do the cream, to do the expensive topicals or facials or teas or whatever it is for any type of hormonal issue that they're dealing with. And when those options are exhausted, their doctor basically is like, well, it is what it is. It's genetic. It's part of being a woman. Just go back on birth control if you want to fix it. And I'm taking a stand because that is not enough. That is what is failing women in the conventional health space. And I'm very loud and open about that. Not everything about conventional medicine is wrong. And I do see a lot of gaps in care when it comes specifically to help women. And that is a huge driver because that was behind my own personal journey with post-birth control syndrome and what inspired me to open my own business. And this is a huge part of that story is when my doctor refused to support me, even after I learned all the deeper behind the scenes things that needed to happen, and how I took that and I made my business even bigger and better, and how I strive to be and am different in the way that I approach health, in the way that I support my clients, and in the way that I get my clients results. So backing up a little bit, really this started with, like I said, if you don't know a lot about my story, I was on birth control for 10 years. So pretty much from age 18 to age 27, 28. And the reason I was put on birth control was not for pregnancy prevention, it was for a missing period. And what was actually happening was I was not eating enough, I was over exercising. So that was actually the root cause, but no one addressed that. No one asked the right questions about that. Was able to heal my own relationship with food and exercise. And that's what took me to the eating disorder space, working there as a dietitian for a very long time. And then when I learned what I call the dark side of birth control and the negative consequences and impacts it has that I was not informed of, I quit cold turkey because that's basically what my doctor said, just stop and see what happens. And it did not go well. So I had really, really bad acne. That was my primary symptom. It was the most distressing symptom. It's the one I'm going to be talking about a lot today because that's, the biggest piece of my story. And there were other things behind the scenes that were happening. So I struggled with post birth control syndrome for about 4 years after stopping birth control. And I did everything to try and fix it. So again, acne was my biggest symptom. It was on my face and it was the most, it was embarrassing. It was painful. There was no rhyme or reason to when I was breaking out. It was just really, really stressful for me. It impacted me physically, it impacted me emotionally, it impacted me mentally. And this can apply to anyone for, post birth control syndrome. It's not just acne. It's, if you have really painful or missing periods, if they're really heavy, mood swings, infertility. There's so many ways that post birth control syndrome looks like. But for me, the biggest, most distressing piece was my acne. So I tried everything to try and fix it, right? So I did topicals. I had a stellar, expensive, million step skincare routine from an esthetician. I went and got monthly facials and chemical peels, red light therapy. I did lots of detox things. I tried all of the hormone balancing teas. I did, hormone supplements. I did, or like hormone balancing supplements. I did restrictive diets. I did holistic acne programs, tretinoin, antibiotics. I did literally everything besides Accutane and going back on birth control, which were basically when I exhausted all those options I just said. That was pretty much what my dermatologist told me is, well, we either have, you could just go back on birth control. Some women just need to do that, or you go on Accutane, and neither of those were a good option for me. Neither of those satisfied me. I was like, no, I know at this point all the negative impacts birth control has, and I also know about the negative impacts that Accutane has. And so I could not accept those two options, so I made option 3. So it was about this time when, like I said, I had worked in the eating disorder space for about 8 years. Now that I've been in my business almost 2 full years, it's like getting fuzzy. I used to know these numbers like the back of my hand, but I was in the eating disorder space for a long time, almost a decade. And through my own learning about post birth control syndrome, even though I was still dealing with my acne, because acne is very, very specialized, we'll talk about that. I just my passion shifted. I realized that I couldn't help these women that I was coming in contact with in the eating disorder space, nor was it my role in that space to help them with the deeper underlying hormone, gut, skin issues that they were dealing with. But I had the tools to, and I knew how to help them. So that was really frustrating for me because I'm always someone I want to help people, obviously, in this profession. And I didn't want to see people suffer, knowing that I could help them. So that's what inspired me. I had a side business for a period of time prior to going full time into Nourish by Taylor with my friend and colleague at the time, and it was eating disorder focused. And I made the decision. I found this specialized functional nutrition coaching program. It was part clinical coaching, like learning behind the scenes stuff of functional nutrition from a registered dietitian, and it was part business coaching. So I distinctly remember it was a big investment and I was really nervous about it, but I knew in my heart of hearts, like that was the next thing I needed to get me to the next level in my business. And She specialized in acne and chronic skin conditions. And that was really appealing to me because I wanted to know more about that. And I wanted to and was hopeful that throughout going through that program that I could heal my own skin issues that I had dealt with, not just after stopping birth control, but I had dealt with acne pretty much from very, very young, like teenage years. And birth control kind of masked it, but it was still constant. It was still a constant battle. It just flared really, really bad once I ripped that band-aid off. So I started that functional nutrition program, and that's when I shifted gears and transitioned and opened to Nourished by Taylor, which my specialty is helping women proactively and safely transition off of birth control, doing it in a way that we're not taught and giving women the tools so they're not terrified of what will happen, because there's all these horror stories out there of I quit birth control and, I mean, I'm an example. My face broke out. I gained weight. I, had terrible mood swings. I became a different person. My periods were horrible, all these things. And it left women in that position that I was stuck in of like, well, just deal with it or go on birth control or stay on birth control. And some people wanted to come off and they wanted a family, or they were realizing that birth control was causing other negative symptoms, like it was impacting their mood, it was making their skin worse, etc. And so I wanted to provide that outlet for women so that they didn't have to deal with that because of the information that I knew. So, all that being said, I joined FNPI, which is the Functional Nutrition Practitioner Institute, and I learned all about the root causes of acne, of other hormone imbalances, and it really was such a great experience. If you want information on the program, if you're a professional, feel free to message me on Instagram. I'm happy to give that information. But it opened my eyes, and even though I was a dietitian, it was with a master's degree in nutrition. I had never learned this information. It was a whole new lens of looking at nutrition and looking at health, especially female health. So it was so revolutionary and it was so helpful, not only from a clinical standpoint, but also from a business standpoint. So I learned all about the root causes that I didn't know how to fix before, and I knew exactly what labs to run to identify what was causing XYZ symptoms. So I learned for myself. We were all, those of us who were in FMPI, the cohort, we were our own guinea pigs. A lot of us were struggling with our own health stuff. We wanted to figure it out and help other people. So I ran all these functional lab tests myself that I knew my doctor didn't know how to run, and didn't know how to interpret, such as the GI map, the comprehensive stool test, urine iodine loading, and the HTMA. So these are all labs that I run on my clients in my coaching programs to uncover the root causes of the symptoms women have been dealing with for years and years and years. The one test I wanted to see if my doctor would run for me, because these tests are an investment, right? And at that time, I didn't realize, I was at a different space where it just was, I was so used to the conventional, like insurance pays for things. I was not used to, paying hundreds of dollars for tests to uncover these things. So I wanted to see if my doctor would run some functional blood labs on me and I could interpret them. So I messaged my doctor, and I distinctly remember I wanted to be very thorough. I didn't want to just, come off as Joe Schmo off the street who saw something on TikTok. And I don't even know if TikTok was a big thing at the time. But I didn't want to come off as someone who was like, oh, I saw this. I read about this on the internet. Like, can you run this for me? Because I get that as a provider, we are the drivers of the bus, and I'm always willing to like listen to my client when they bring things up. But a lot of things on the internet are not individualized, and they're kind of misguided. So I messaged my doctor and was very thorough of like, hey, I'm taking this functional nutrition course and I'm learning all about functional tests to uncover deeper levels of inflammation, gut imbalances, detox issues that might play a role in the acne I've been experiencing. And so I just gave her like a little recap, because I saw my doctor once a year or something, like typical for what you're recommended. So she knew me-ish, right? But like I spent maybe 10 minutes with her, 10 to 20 minutes with her per year. And I'm sure she sees hundreds of, if not thousands of people per year. So gave her a little backstory, gave her information of why I was asking for these labs. And then I listed out the lab and the code because I know when we order blood labs, because I order blood labs now. So it would be super easy for her. And I remember her getting back to me the next morning and she said, "We can talk about this at your next appointment, but I don't work with functional providers, period." And I just remember sitting there at my computer. I remember this was when Jared was working at home. Was this? Man, my time just flies. Like I'm trying to remember. Maybe he wasn't at home, or maybe he was. I can't remember. It doesn't matter. But regardless, I remember sitting there and my eyes just started to fill with tears because I finally was on the brink of answers after 4+ years of suffering with acne. And again, it's not just the acne, it impacts your mental health. It was impacting, I didn't feel comfortable like going places. I would cancel plans. I would, feel embarrassed in front of my own partner or family or friends, even though they never made me feel like I should. It's totally a mental me thing. And I'm sure a lot of you can relate to that, whether it's acne or whether it's something else. And I just felt so dismissed. And what I heard her say was, "I don't believe you. Your suffering doesn't matter. I'm not willing to work with you to dig deeper. I don't think you know what you're talking about, you silly girl." She didn't say any of those things, but that is what I heard with her saying, "I don't work with functional providers." There is no questions. There was no curiosity. There was nothing. It was just a no. And I was so frustrated. So I started crying and then I got angry and I was like, F it. I canceled my appointment with her. And I was like, I feel so unsupported. I don't even want to be around you. It was so, so disheartening. And I hear this all the time from women. A lot of women have exhausted the routes that they've been given or the options they've been given. And a lot of them turn to social media. They turn to Googling and chat GPTing to try and find answers on their own, which shouldn't have to be our job. And unfortunately it is. And that's why I opened my business, because I want to be that sounding board. I want to be that resource. I want to be that support system to help women get answers and to connect the dots and to finally help them feel better and to give them that step-by-step plan of how to do it based on their body's data. But a lot of people, before they get to me, they've experienced the same thing where, they felt dismissed, they felt degraded, they felt gaslit. And I don't use that word lightly. And they're told, your labs look fine. Here's another prescription. It's just part of being a woman. You just got to have to deal with it. It's just your genetics. You're destined for this, basically. And again, this is where this is not enough for me. I will not stand for this anymore. It makes me so frustrated. And I'm so sad that so many women are going through this. So what my doctor didn't see when she sent me that no was it hurt to touch my face. I canceled plans because I was embarrassed. I avoided mirrors. All the hours of research that I put into it to try to heal myself. And I was on the brink of knowing how to do it. And there was no interest, no questions. Even if she would have declined, if her just being open to hearing and understanding my point of view would have made me feel so much better. So I remember looking at that computer screen in that client portal, tears welling, then getting angry and upset, canceling my next appointment with her. And I said, you know what? I'm just going to order it myself because my health is something that's important to me. I'm willing to invest in myself. So this was a big turning point for me. Like I said, I had already ordered 3 of the other labs that I wanted to run. And I just decided, you know what, if she's not going to run these, then I'll run it myself. That's fine. I'm very lucky because I'm a dietitian. I can order these labs. And I just want to make a point here too. This is one reason why I have some clients who say, well, can I try and get these labs run through my insurance when we're talking about, them joining one of my coaching programs? And I'm very candid with them of like, we can try, and I've never seen that be successful. And I always see it be more of a headache and more expensive down the road because they either won't order the right labs, even if I give the client a list and they give their doctor the list, copy and paste, because again, they don't know how to interpret it or they don't know why they're being run because they're not labs. The labs that I run are very unique, very targeted and specific to women's health and hormonal health. And so doctors don't know how to interpret those things. So if they don't know how to interpret them or they don't understand why they're being run because they're not what they would run, they're less likely to run those things. And if they do run all of them, they may or may not be covered by insurance. So it just ends up being a big hassle. And that's why I include all of the functional labs within the cost of the investment of the coaching program. And I understand it's an investment. And if you're anything like me, you've already spent a lot of money trying to fix yourself and trying to go the conventional route. And it will save you so much time, energy, and money to get those answers faster through the targeted lab work and the specialized holistic care that I provide in my coaching programs than if you would have tried to do it, on the cheap any longer. I guarantee you that because I've been there. I've tried to do that and I've seen my clients try and do that. So all that being said, I ordered those labs on my own and I refused to settle for surface level answers. And when I got the results back from the tests, the GI map, the iodine loading, the HTMA, and the functional blood labs that I ran, I was floored. After years of being told they didn't know why I was struggling with my acne or my anxiety, just take this pill, it's just part of being a woman, I had so much data. And another thing I will point out with this is another hesitation, rightfully so, that women have when they, are considering working with me is they're scared that their labs will come back normal. They're scared that we won't find anything. And then they would have invested in another thing and not gotten answers, which I totally get that fear. I've been there myself. And what I will tell you is honestly, transparently, I've never seen that happen. Ever, ever, ever. And I will be honest, if someone comes back and all their labs that I run are clean, I will change that statement. But up until this point, about 2 years in the business, I've never had anyone have completely normal labs to me because I order very different labs and I'm looking at them from a very different lens of what's optimal for women's health versus just what's normal and not flagging it until it's a disease state. So I had all this data on myself. I have other episodes on this, but surface level overview, I was in chronic fight or flight. My nervous system was highly dysregulated, which isn't surprising because I'm type A, entrepreneur, perfectionist, recovering perfectionist, I call myself, go-getter. And I put a lot of pressure on myself and I'm very go, go, go. So my nervous system was constantly in fight or flight, which burns through minerals quickly. I had food poisoning. So I had E. coli. I have no clue where I got that. And H. pylori. I had loss of dysbiosis in my gut, low stomach acid. I had sensitivity to gluten, which has since been resolved with getting to the root of the other inflammatory issues in my gut. So I can now safely incorporate gluten. And I had low iodine, which is really important for skin, especially around like where I get it, which is around the jaw and the mustache line and the chin area. My liver enzymes are really high. My liver was struggling to detoxify after years of birth control and not eating enough or, burning through minerals very quickly, even though I was a very healthy eater. My gallbladder was struggling. I was very low in iron. My copper was borderline high, which causes inflammation. And my vitamin A was extremely low, which vitamin A is an antioxidant that women with acne need. And that's important for iron recycling, for copper, etc. So I had so much information. And I was like, this is so validating. This is so validating. And if I would have just sat back and been like, okay, I guess it's just normal to suffer with acne the rest of my life, or I guess it's just normal to feel like shit the rest of my life or until menopause, I would not be where I am today. I would not be where I am today. And this is so important for me to spread the word on because, again, this is something I hear over and over again when someone comes to me. They're scared that their labs will come back normal. They've been dismissed by their doctors time and time again. And they start thinking that this is just how they feel. This is just a them issue, but it's not. And for the first time, I had clarity versus confusion, and that was huge. And I knew exactly what I needed to heal, and that's possible for you too. So that experience really was a I don't want to say like a turning point for me because I knew that, but I think it was just maybe mentally a turning point for me because it was a good reminder of we need to advocate for ourselves and the role of finding a specialist who listens to us, who will work with us, who will hear us out. And that is what I strive to be for the women in my world. Anyone who's in my coaching programs, and I will say, like, I'm going to toot my own horn here. That is something that women tell me all the time. They're like, I feel so comfortable coming to you with any and all of my questions. Nothing is off limits in sessions and in chat with my clients. Like, we talk about poop, we talk about sex, we talk about periods, we talk about all the things. And that's our body. Like, women don't understand their own body, myself included. I didn't know my own body until I, you know, had the tools to deeply heal myself. And I finally learned what an optimal functioning body looked like. And so, they feel comfortable coming to me and talking about these things. They feel heard, they feel seen. And the labs are really important. I mean, that's a huge piece of what this episode is about. But it's also having someone in your corner to know when to continue, know when to pivot, know when we just need more time, when we need to try something different, or stay the course, versus feeling like you're on this deserted island by yourself, going into that deep rabbit hole of ChatGPT or Googling your symptoms and coming up with like nothing, or spending so much time and money trying to continue to figure it out on your own when no one will help you. I help women with the exact same thing, understanding their body, running the right labs, and finally healing the root causes of their acne, their bloating, their fatigue, their missing or painful periods, their anxiety, whatever it is. And if this story resonates with you, if this sounds familiar and you've ever been to your doctor's office or OB's office feeling dismissed, gaslit, brushed off, I want you to know that you're not crazy. You're not crazy for wanting deeper answers and to wanting more. I was right in your shoes just a few years ago. You just need a different approach, and you need a provider who listens and who is in your corner and who genuinely cares and who knows women's health. Because it's a specialty. It truly is. As a dietitian in the eating disorder space, I would have no clue how to do this stuff until I pursued the specialized training and got the clinical experience from working with dozens and dozens of clients at this point. So that's why I want to give you guys a sneak preview. So it's the second week of November. Next week, I am running my own Black Friday deal. And what the deal is, as a preview, it's not live yet, but I want to give you guys behind the scenes. And if you're interested in it and want early access, that's a bonus for listeners who are listening to this podcast. So I have an offer that's called the Breakup with Birth Control Accelerator. And this is a 6-week accelerated program where we incorporate functional lab testing to uncover what birth control really imbalanced. And if you're looking to stop birth control, this is for you. If you're looking, or maybe you stop birth control already and it's not going really great, this is a great offer for you. Or if you just want a taste of what coaching would look like together and birth control, maybe you've been off birth control for several years or it's not a big piece of your story, this is still a great fit for anyone who has any underlying hormone imbalance that they want deeper insight into. So normally the accelerator comes with a 75-minute coaching call with me, a customized plan with nutrition recommendations, supplements, lifestyle modifications that are realistic for your life, and 2 targeted lab tests. And we choose a lab test based on your symptoms. So there's different tracks within the accelerator. We have an acne and gut track, which is HTMA plus the comprehensive stool test, or we have the PMS anxiety track or the painful period track, which that is the HTMA plus the functional blood labs that I mentioned in this episode. So normally you get 2 out of the 3 labs. And the Black Friday special is you get all 3 labs for the price of 2. So this is very similar to what you get in my high touch VIP coaching space. It's just, it doesn't include the urine iodine loading test. But you get 3 out of the 4 labs for the price of 2. This is about a $375 value, and it's available only for a limited time. And like I said, it officially is live next Monday through Friday. And if you're listening to this and this is something that you're ready to stop guessing, to finally understand what your body's been trying to tell you, and this appeals to you and feels like something that, gives you hope, which I know for sure it will help you, then go ahead and DM me Black Friday at Nourished by Tay on Instagram, and we'll chat about the details and make for sure it's the absolute right fit. And if you are ready to get started, I'll get you started in that right away. You'll get first dibs. So this is a limited time offer, since I am personally coaching you and going through the labs and, giving you that customized plan. And then you'll also have 6 weeks of chat access. That's something I forgot to mention, is you'll have the one-on-one session with me, 3 functional labs versus 2. So 3 for the cost of 2. And a customized plan, and then 6 weeks of chat access as you start to implement things, as questions come up. So that's really, really valuable. So we can kind of talk through, anything and everything within, 6 weeks together. So again, if you're ready to stop guessing and understand what your body's been trying to tell you and have a customized step-by-step plan of how to correct that and feel better, DM me Black Friday on Instagram at Nourished by Tay, and we'll make sure it's the right fit and get you started if you're ready to rock and roll. All that being said, closing things for this episode. You deserve a provider who listens to you. You deserve to feel empowered, not dismissed. You deserve to know what's happening in your body and have the tools to know how to feel better. That's very important to me, is women understanding their bodies and knowing what's going on and knowing how to course correct. And you deserve to heal, not just to cope or to white knuckle it your way through. If you've ever been told your symptoms are just part of being a woman, this is your sign to fire that doctor who won't listen or doesn't know what to do differently. Maybe they're not with the times, they don't have that specialized education, and to find someone who will, like myself, whether that's with me or with another provider who you feel like is a good fit, because your intuition is not wrong and your body's not broken. You just need the right support, the right plan, and the right person helping guide you. I'm going to wrap up by sharing a little bit about how I'm nourishing myself recently. And I was thinking about this because it's been a while since I recorded this. I kind of batched my podcast episodes. And the way that I am nourishing myself recently is with Black Friday coming up and with some exciting things happening in my business. I have been very intentional about stopping working and making time for my own health. So that includes, working out. That includes scheduling appointments. So, there are some appointments that I'm really good at scheduling, but I'm someone who I have to make for sure that I schedule things in advance. Otherwise, it's very easy for me to be like, oh, I'll schedule that next week. Oh, I'll schedule that next week. And then weeks turn into months, and then I'm not feeling great. So I am today scheduling another follow-up with my chiropractor. And I have my weekly facial with a new esthetician who I'm working with to work on some post-pigmentation from that retinol flare. And then I also have my monthly massage appointment as well that I commit to. So really being intentional about stopping work, making time for myself, because I am someone who I love what I do. I love, my job, which is amazing. And sometimes that can burn me out because I don't recognize that I'm going too hard all the time until I'm at the burnout phase. So being intentional about that is really, really important. And I've grown a lot as a business owner over the past couple of years. And that's something that I've learned about myself, is just being really intentional and being very mindful of that. I hope this episode was super, super helpful for you. If it was, please send this to a friend, another woman who needs to hear this, who is done settling. It really would mean a lot to me for other women to know about this. And it's truly about empowering more women to feel better and to get the support that they need. And if this was helpful for you, I would also appreciate a 5-star review on Apple, iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you listen to your podcast, leave a comment or a review, like written review on Apple or on YouTube. It would mean the world for me. And until next time, stay nourished.